You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
How's it, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of the Command Zone. I'm your host, Josh Lee Kwai.
And I'm DJ.
We're back. We're still talking about Commander 2018.
We can't stop talking about Commander 2018.
Can't stop talking about it. I hope you all have enjoyed all the bonus episodes out there. Today, we've got an interesting topic. So the set's been a little bit polarizing.
Definitely.
Yeah, there's been a decent amount of negativity out there.
Usually everyone's just universally excited for it. And this time there seems to be some people up in arms.
I mean, to the point where a lot of people were upset that we weren't more negative about it. We don't usually get into sort of what I would call the punditry side of Magic very much on this show. It's not really what we're normally here to do, but you know, the Commander product is for obviously the Commander format. It's the one thing we get every year that's like for us. You know, they come out with a bunch of sets, but that's not all for us. And so we thought today we would discuss, you know, a question, which is C18 a success or a failure? And then, you know, how do we measure the quality of the Commander set, and what is it the Commander players want from and need from the Commander product, and that they can hope for moving forward into the future? Yeah,
it's sort of evaluating this whole thing as one entity. Before we were breaking down decks and
looking at specific cards.
Exactly, yeah. But now we kind of take a step back and see, well, did they do a good job or not?
Yeah. So before we get into all that, though, we got to give some shout outs to our sponsors, cardkingdom.com/commandzone. If you use that affiliate link when you order your Magic products, singles, all this Commander 2018, the precon decks, the singles, anything at all, you really are supporting this podcast, supporting game nights and all of our content. And we really super appreciate when you do that. You know, I always say you're going to buy Magic cards anyway. If you use the affiliate link when you do, that's just added value. And another thing that is added value is using products from Ultra Pro, who is our other sponsor. They have all the great theme stuff around Commander 2018. You can see in front of us the Estrid and Lord Windgrace playmats. Ultra Pro hands down makes the best playmats they got the best like printers or something, because their playmats just look better than everybody else's. They also have the Eclipse sleeves, which are the best sleeves on the market. A lot of people, though, have been asking us about this banner behind us. So behind DJ is the cloth History of Benalia banner. And these are cloth. A lot of people have been asking us that. They're made by Ultra Pro. They're these scrolls that you hang on the wall. You might have seen in the recent game nights. There's a Black Lotus one. There's a Jason the Mind Sculptor one. We had a Nicol Bolas one for a while. These are great ways to spice up your room, your game room, any place that you want to show sort of your magic, I don't know, your love of magic.
And some of the best art, too.
Yeah. I mean, the History of Benalia one is sweet.
Amazing.
It's like a stained glass window. Yeah, it's really cool. So Ultra Pro making awesome products. And the final way to support all of our content is directly if you go to patreon.com/commandzone. In fact, we call out one lucky patron every single episode. And this episode is dedicated to Mustafa Sobroto. Mustafa, you rock.
Thanks.
All right, let's get into the main topic here. Commander 2018, success or failure. Do you want to talk about the criteria we're going to use to sort of break this down?
Whenever you evaluate anything, you should set your terms, basically. You should have criteria for how you're evaluating something. If you ever get into an argument with someone about anything, it's like, oh, I thought that was a good movie, or no, I thought that was a bad movie. You could be talking about two different forms of criteria for it. And so you need to set your terms starting off. And so if we have a disagreement, we find out whether we're having a disagreement about what we're actually talking about, which is the success or failure of Commander 2018, or whether we have a disagreement with criteria. And that could happen.
Mm-hmm. So our criteria is going to be sort of 4 categories. Exciting themes / new commanders is 1. Enjoyable play experience is 2. New toys is 3. And then reprints and value. So let's start with exciting themes and or new commanders. I believe this is the most important thing for any new commander set. And we're going to talk about if that's true or not. But, you know, it's really what's new. Players don't want or need another like green-black +1/+1 counters, legendary. We don't need another Boros aggro commander. You know, we want stuff that expands the format that opens previous, doors that were previously closed, kind
And
of.
I'm the most excited about this category personally. And different people will have different perspectives, but I don't want another boring commander. I want to see something new. I want new things to build around. I want to be able to talk about it and brew new decks, make more videos. And so this is what I'm the most excited about.
That's a really good point about making more videos. Like, we're in the content creation realm, both of us, so our viewpoint is going to be a little bit skewed towards that. It's I think it's important to note that right up front, which is that we're talking about Commander for multiple hours every week to thousands of people. And so saying the same thing over and over is not exciting. It doesn't help you get out of bed in the morning. And so when there's something new, that's what gets the juices flowing, right?
Oh yeah, I get excited about the new stuff.
And it makes it easier for you to create your content. And, it's a lot harder if another +1/+1, green,
blue,
black, commander comes out. You're like, okay, I guess I'll do a deck tech about it.
I'll actually look at the stuff I've done before, look at other things. It becomes really easy to brew, and it can have a little bit of a different take sometimes, but a lot of times it feels so much the same. And when you get something new and exciting, well, then you really get to start brewing.
So the question I had here was, what do we want? What do commander players want? I think a lot of people are in our boat, though, where the new stuff is the exciting thing. What new decks can I build? What new archetypes are available to me? So I sort of listed some stuff here as far as the types of things that we're looking for from the commander product.
Yeah, I think that one of them is basically if you have a difficult or impossible strategy to have before, and now it's suddenly open for business. You can just start building. We just got this with Arcades, the strategist.
Yep.
We can now build that wall tribal deck that was really having trouble before, that just wasn't there. And Wizards has been great about doing this over and over again with so many different commanders, not just in the Commander 2018 set. Where
And
they're
of
like,
course,
look, here's a new toy. Go build around it.
And look at Arcades. That's the most popular commander to build from M19 by far, even though they've got Nicol Bolas and some other ones in there. If you look at EDH Rec, that's the one. And why? Because it opened a door that was closed before. Wall Tribal wasn't something that was impossible to do. It was just very difficult, and this just suddenly made it viable.
And it rewarded it too. And so it became something exciting that people wanted to build, and I wanted to build it too. I built it. Yeah.
I think another thing is just adding new colors to an old strategy. So, for instance, this Commander 2018 set did this a lot, but one of them was Esper zombies. We've had a lot of Dimir zombies, a lot of mono black zombies. White hadn't been a color that was really you were able to play in a zombie deck. Again, you could do it, but it was difficult because you had to have a non-zombie commander, and now all of a sudden they opened that door for you that was closed before. That's something people get excited about. An easy one is new tribal. Mm-hmm. Last year's commander set was just all that.
Yeah.
I mean, not only that, but it was based on that.
You got your wizards tribe, you've got your dragons, you've got the things, the new toys, the new tribal leaders that synergize with your entire deck.
Everyone was excited about cats because you really couldn't build a cat deck before, and now you sort of can.
You can build it, it's just maybe not as good as you want it to be.
I mean, let's be honest, the cat tribal commander they gave us doesn't care about you having a lot of cats, but making a lot of cats was what most cat-based cards did before. It cares about you making one big cat, so it didn't.
It's still synergized with cats, though.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
And but you know what? There's always room to expand it a little bit more. Now you do have a cat commander that's a cat. You have something that can go wide, and
I mean, you need something that can go wide. I don't think you have that now. Yeah, okay. We were looking for things that make previously unplayed or unplayable cards good. Like, for instance, let's take maybe cycling or something like that. Oh. Cycling's good, but we don't have a commander that cares about cycling. If they suddenly came out with a cycling-based commander, people would be stoked because all of a sudden all my cycling cards that are just sitting there in a box, might be able to be played where instead of just sitting in that box. And I think that's something that, all players and commander players specifically enjoy is opening that box and being like, I still have this card and now it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and I think we see this over and over again where people try to take a commander and say, well, I'm going to make the thing that I like work in this situation.
Yep.
A lot of people did that with Saskia and Infect.
Yep.
Or they try to get Infect to work with a brand new commander where they just kind of go for it. And that's interesting where you can sort of get your strategy you want to do and have new toys for it.
And then bringing together cards and or effects that have not coexisted before. And this is a hard thing of this list. It's sort of the hardest to do, but it's sort of creating new archetypes from scratch or making it so that and I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head, but it's kind of like Aminatu's a little bit this, which is bringing together blink effects with top of the library effects, and that the combination of those two abilities leads you towards manifest and some really interesting things.
Yeah.
And that suddenly creates, it's not necessarily like all the cards in the deck are cards you never played with before, but you never played them together before. So that kind of like gets the juices flowing as well. And then the last one is sort of just flat out power. People respond to power, and we got to be careful with this. We don't want to create too many really powerful cards and sort of screw up the format.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I want a new card for my deck. I might not want to build a brand new deck. I might just want a really great card that I'm like, oh, I'm excited. I'm going to get this one card. It's going to go in my one deck and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Or just like Thrasios. I mean, he's too powerful, but people get excited about that card and it goes in a lot of decks, and that's a card that sees a lot of play. Why? It's very powerful. And so there's something to be said for just having powerful cards that we now have access to that we didn't before. So Commander 2018, how does it do sort of according to this criteria that we just laid out as far as the what I just threw my paper. What section are we in? We're in the new commanders.
Yeah, we're in the new archetypes. Sort of like
new themes.
Get like new stuff, new creativity.
Okay. All right. Don't worry, everybody.
I think they did a really good job. I really think that they did.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm excited. We didn't have Jund lands before. I was excited about that.
So that's adding a new color to an existing strategy, right? We had Gitrog, we had Titania, we had Omnath, Locus of Rage, but we didn't have a way to play red, green, and black all together with all the cards. You had to choose red and green or green and black. You had to beat green for sure. But now it was kind of like what they did with the zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And now we have more, we can build something and have more tools. That's interesting.
Bant is almost the same thing.
Absolutely.
Because before it was mostly green-white was the enchantment decks you'd want to play, and now they just kind of added a color. Even though, to be fair, green-white didn't even exist in a great way. Actually, somebody pointed this out to us. Daxos was actually the Returned.
The Returned, it was the black-white.
Yeah, and that was the closest we had to an enchantment general. But black's just not a great enchantment color for that. You really wanted green because of all the enchantresses.
I think black's a great, but no, green with the enchantresses really defines the format.
If they did black, white, or green, white for Daxos the Returned, that would have been, I think, more successful because without green, it didn't fulfill the criteria we wanted as far as using the cards we want to use. But, okay, so that's kind of adding a color. Ban enchantments was. Ninjas, new tribe.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. Ynet is sort of interesting. I don't know.
It doesn't have to be powerful all the time. It can just be interesting.
True.
That helps people brew. That helps people get exciting. It doesn't fulfill this idea of, well, we want all out power, but it does make people excited for something interesting. And I think that did it.
Okay. I don't find that one particularly exciting.
You don't find that exciting?
No, it's not that different than Narset or Jaleva. It's just that I just am restricted to half the number of cards those other two could have.
This is the Esper Flying Sphinx that
cares about
odd converted mana cost.
Yeah. Esper Zombies, that's the same. I think we're seeing a trend here. Jund lands, ban enchantments, Esper Zombies. That's basically adding a color to an existing strategy.
We've wanted blue-red artifacts for a really long time.
Yeah.
Jura kind of gave that to us a little bit, but we know that the way they planned this out, they already knew they were going to have this commander set coming out, even when they made Jura Weatherlight Captain.
I mean, honestly, I think Jura is probably a better blue, as far as power level, blue-red artifacts.
It is very powerful.
Tawnos is pretty powerful, actually. Okay, but then let's talk. So those ones I think were pretty good, although the knock I would say is that a lot of these are the add a new color to an existing strategy category. Jund lands, ban enchantments, Esper Zombies, even blue-red artifacts, you could say, is just adding blue.
Yeah, it's kind of taking away from Brea to sort of be more refined.
It's not like artifacts decks didn't exist. It's just like, right. So here's a new color. So that might be part of what is some of the complaining. Like, people aren't zeroing on that as a reason. But
feel the same, but it's basically just a tweak to something that's already been existing.
Yeah, it's not like, oh boy, this new horizon we've never been over. It's just a slight change to one. Okay, then we've got Gyrus, who is our preview card. That's sort of like regrowing stuff from your graveyard, kind of, with tokens.
A little bit of Reanimator in Jund.
It doesn't feel very new.
It does not feel very new.
It feels like stuff we've basically been able to do in some aspect before. We've got Thantis, who I'm very meh about.
I'm mad about it too.
Yeah. Okay, Brutaclad.
Brutaclad is exciting.
Pretty sweet.
I think Brutaclad is very interesting.
And allows you to play with some cards that have been on the sideline
I agree.
a lot before. So obviously there's a bunch of cards, Mimic Vats and Rite of Replications.
But like you were talking about how Saheeli's Artistry was like a bomb in this deck, and that's been
yeah, you could play it.
It's like a fine bulk card that like if you just play it, why not? You know?
Yeah.
But now it's this new breakout card. It opens up a new archetype. It's interesting.
And then we've got Zoncha, who that is actually a really cool one.
I think Zoncha is cool.
Yeah, that makes a deck that's never existed before.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. And then Varchild.
Very interesting.
Super interesting. I don't know. Again, it's combat-based red. It doesn't feel...
Here's one thing that's great, though. You're just like, I don't know
it could
how
be.
it works. It's very interesting that we don't know exactly what this deck looks like, and we don't know exactly what it's going to do, which to me is like, ooh, that kind of sounds interesting. You know, you give me a lot of other commanders, I'm like, I know exactly what the Esper Zombies, I know exactly what that deck is going to look like.
It's exciting because I get to play white now, but it's not inherently super exciting because...
And I know every card in there. Like, I might have to look around a little bit, but you can imagine that deck.
Well, and let's be honest, it's going to be a blue-black zombie deck with like 10 to 12 white cards. Yeah. Right? Like, I mean, that's just probably... Jimmy may not like that comparison.
We're trashing Jimmy's deck right now.
He came up with some interesting things, I'm not going to lie. But Varchild, I think, on some aspect, does feel like another red attacking general. Yeah. You might be able to do some Goblin Bombardment stuff with it, but...
Even if he gets solved later on, I think that that's nice.
I think it's a she.
Even though if she gets solved later on, it's still an interesting point in time where we can be like, well, what interesting synergies can we put together with this? What can we do?
Okay, so let's compare it to past commander sets. I think, judging C18 in a box is not the greatest. It's like, well, are we on a trajectory? Has something changed? Is this year worse than previous years or better? How can we determine whether it's a success or failure without looking at past ones and seeing how it compares? So,
absolutely.
Last year was C17. It was the tribal commanders. So all those tribal ones fit into our opening up a tribe category, although some of them were tribes that kind of existed before, but
dragons you could play
but still like
stuff,
it's you could play Scion, who's probably still the best dragon commander, but Cats has a new commander that's wizards definitely vampires, Edgar's like ridiculous. So Edgar I think won the commander championship at Vegas. I think
really?
It was an Edgar deck.
Edgar is banned in 1v1.
Yeah, it's a tier 1 deck, so that's very clearly very powerful, but also vampires.
It feels like just adding tribal, like, hey, new tribe is kind of the same as what we've done. We're just like,
add a color.
It's add a color. It's like a new, the tribes are established. These strategies are established. It's just like, hey, here's a commander that lets you do something that you've already been able to do, kind of.
But just with a little bit of a twist to it, right?
So it feels like this is on par with the tribal set.
The tribal set also had Kess, Marisil, Ramos, Miri. All were secondary commanders that had very interesting builds.
Yeah.
And also some of those fall into the very powerful category. Kess is definitely a very, very powerful deck. Ramos is pretty powerful. Okay, so let's go on to C16, which is the 4-color commanders, which I think personally is the best commander set ever released.
I think it's amazing.
Yeah. And so, first of all, 4-color commanders had never been done. So every single one of them was opening up a color pairing, a color.
It was opening up so much, really. It's really hard to put your finger on it when literally you're opening up something that has never been allowed to us before.
Right. There was no 4-color commanders, and so these were the first ever, and everything they were doing was at least adding colors or just making... There's tons of people that went out and built just the 4-color deck they'd already always wanted to build around whatever theme they wanted, just because, well, now I have a commander that lets me play those 4 colors. So just that alone was very exciting. Plus the partners. So there's over 100 combinations of the various partners. And so basically this was a set where like 120 new commanders came out, kind of.
Yeah.
So that's another aspect where like it's impossible with that amount of combinations to not kind of hit all these different categories of like new doors being opened and new stuff and new possibilities and new horizons to explore. And so I do think that's really the reason that C16 is so great and pretty much universally considered awesome.
It is very awesome. I think it might be really good for enfranchised players like us, where we want to do exactly what we want to do. We don't need a roadmap of a specific commander, and we take the partner commanders and put them together to do exactly what we want. And I think you've done that.
A lot, yeah.
I've done that in my deck building as well. And I know a lot of people that watch this show have done it as well, where they're like, I want to do blank. I made a Jeskai Ascendancy deck from partners. Because you needed that 4 colors. You needed Blacklist to be able to do this Jeskai Ascendancy tappy untappy kind of thing. You have a crazy deck where you have Thrasios and Vial Smasher. That's like super powerful.
And you can never put those combination of colors together until now. I mean, you could do 5 color, but yeah, totally different. I think that set is so good that even now I feel like going back to the partners, there are new horizons to explore. There are new doors to unlock that I still haven't explored. That's how good that set was.
I feel like you can't really, that the hype wasn't there for the partners, because you saw in franchise players, people like us saw the partners and we saw the 100+ possibilities. But many players, they might have seen the partners and it would have been a little bit hard for them to imagine putting them together, especially because some of them don't actually work very well together. And so that might be a little bit harder to see. You see the face of commander sets where it's like cats, it's full of cats. You're like, yes, I know how to upgrade this. I'm so excited. I'm going to play cats, or I'm going to play vampires. And in the partners, it could be like, well, this is a little bit deeper, and maybe that stimulated a lot of people that really love Commander, but maybe the others gravitated towards.
By all accounts, it was a successful product.
Oh, totally.
And sold very well. So I think that we can sort of, and the response was very positive to it, just as it was for Tribal.
Yeah.
So the other thing I'll say about C18 is raw power. It was very powerful. Brea and Yidris are extraordinarily powerful decks. Yidris is tier 1. Brea is very close. Thrasios, tier 1.
Vial Smashers.
Timna, Vial Smasher. Yeah. So much of it was, and so don't discount the raw.
Timna is great.
Yeah. I'm saying don't discount the raw power level of cards as a big component of whether or not people are excited about it and whether it does well. So what's the verdict on 2018? What do you think? I guess, where does it fall sort of along the Commander product in these sort of exciting new themes, new commanders?
In my mind, I was still excited, and I'm still excited now, even after breaking them all down. I think that they are new themes, or there's new ways to approach old themes. There are some really exciting commanders that are great to build, and although it doesn't give us the Swiss Army knife that was Commander 2016, this does do better than some of the previous years. Like the monocolored planeswalkers were a little bit blah. The experience counter ones were it's like the experience counter was an interesting mechanic, but it didn't change anything that those colors actually did. So if we're comparing it to one of the best commander sets, it might not measure up, but I think if we're comparing it over the entire field of commander sets, we're doing pretty well.
Yeah, I think it's a success, but it's not like the best ever. It's definitely well behind C16.
I think it's going to be hard to reach that ever again.
Probably without doing partners again, which they could do, but that's going to be a whole crazy thing. So let's not go into it. Again? Yeah, wow. But I have to say, when I saw the new commanders, I was like, okay. I was definitely not like, yeah, which for C16 I was. For C17 I wasn't even like, yeah. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I was also for the Tribal, I was like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, like there's some cool stuff here. Oh, I might build 1 or 2 of these, And so I feel like this is like, it's right there. It's not worse or better than most of them. C16's way up here. Everything else is, and like you said, the monocolored Planeswalkers year, that one was pretty mediocre. I was actually not excited about most of that.
Really?
Yeah, well, monocolored too. It's not in my wheelhouse, but okay. So let's go on to so we're giving it a pass. We're saying, are we calling that a success? I think so. Yeah. It's not like a A+ success.
Yeah.
It's like a B.
B minus. Yeah.
B minus. B minus, B plus, B. What is it?
I don't think very many of the commander sets have failed, and so I think that this could be a B plus. That's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with a B on. I don't know why we're just choosing to steal the limited.
We're randomly just assigning a grade right now.
Limited resources. That's how they said you rank things. Okay. The next category is enjoyable play experience. And this is a tough one. I think it's hard. there's so many targets they could be aiming at. I wrote down, like, what's the goal of a precon? Are the decks designed to be a jumping off point? Are they supposed to be closer to a finished product? I mean, what's the expected pattern of behavior? Is this supposed to be bought and played as is and then never changed? Or are we supposed to slowly upgrade them over time? Or are we expected to just totally strip them apart and build brand new decks?
I think that's one of the difficulties is when you have a product that's supposed to be so many different things, it actually pulls it in different directions and it makes it harder to be what an individual group wants. If it's supposed to be never changed and intact for playing, then it doesn't do a very good job. But if it's supposed to be broken apart, then maybe it also didn't do a very good job. You know, if it's supposed to be upgraded slowly, maybe it did a pretty good job. And so, but we can't dictate the right way to play with these because it's all the right way to play with these precons.
Okay, well, it does feel like this year's design is trying to hit too many targets. It didn't know which one of those it wanted to be, or maybe it wanted to be all of them.
I think it needs to be all of them, really. I mean,
Is
if
it
I'm
possible?
coming from that might be a problem if you're trying to do too many things. But I think in Wizards' mind, they're thinking we need something that's very palatable for the masses. Remember, this goes in the Walmarts, the Targets.
Right.
A lot of people pick this up and they want it to look cool on the cover. They want it to be very attractive. That you want to be able to pull it out and be able to play with it and kind of understand what's going on. And that's all for sort of the new player. And if you're watching this, you're probably
You're
entrenched.
watching Magic content online, so you're already sort of like, you could be on the
you're
very edge
invested.
of casual, but probably not, yeah.
Yeah, you're invested. But we want it to be an attractive product. We want more people to come into Commander. We want someone to walk into your local game store and say, I just bought this at Target. It's awesome. Can I trade with you? Can I buy cards? What can I do? And we want that.
Right. We would like it to shepherd people into the game.
Exactly. So I think that's one thing that Wizards definitely wants. They also want you to be happy and excited and build stuff.
They
and
want
be hyped.
current Commander players to buy it.
And that's
though.
that was our first criteria, is to be excited, to want to build, to want to buy it, to want to expand sort of the brand.
We wrote down a question here, which is it fun to play? And since we're in the enjoyable play experience category.
Exactly.
I have, at the time we're recording this, it's going to be hard to believe, but it still hasn't come out yet. The Commander product is coming out this Friday. We're recording episodes well in advance because of scheduling reasons, travel and stuff, and also just we want to do a lot of stuff for Commander 2018. So I have had the ability to play with this a few times. You've probably seen Game Nights by now. I also did a how to play video with Geek and Sundry. We've played it a few times in the office. So I've had the ability. Luckily, we had the decks very early, so we've been able to break them out and play them a little bit. And it is fun, and the decks actually play pretty well. There's maybe more synergy, I think, than people are giving them credit for. I will say that Planeswalkers as commanders, I've been disparaging of it in the past. Every time, last time they did this, they did it here. I'm open-minded. I wanted it to be fun. That part does detract a little for me. You find that on turns 10 and 11, you're looking around and you're like, everybody's still at 40?
So it slows down the game.
For sure.
Okay.
Because you're like, especially these, and I've noticed that all of these Planeswalkers will ultimate after like a couple of activations. There's a bunch of +2s on them, and so he has only pluses basically. And so what happens is the game tends to be, it goes like this. DJ is close to ultimate. Hey, everybody else, let's work together. Let's get his commander either dead or down so it's not going to ultimate. As soon as you get that done, you go, whoa, one of the players that was helping me, their commander's close to ultimate. Now let's all work together to get their commander down so it's not going to ultimate. And then you just play that game for most of the game, and that's why you look up on turn 12 or 13, you're like, everyone's at 40 because no one's attacked anybody else. They've just hit Planeswalkers.
And so that means that the play experience straight out of the box could be slow, not as good. Whereas maybe if you take this to a different game, it's like, oh, well, Anguished Unmaking, it's gone.
I will say that after the first 2 times I played, I started switching and not playing my Planeswalker as my commander in any of the decks because I just felt like, well, they're all getting attacked. And so if I have a commander that can't be attacked, I just inherently have an advantage in this environment. And definitely that's been true. Wow. So I think a big advantage when taking these out of the box is play with not the Planeswalker as your commander. It is a huge advantage.
Wow.
Because it's just that's a card they don't have.
That's good tech right there.
Yeah, they don't have free removal spells for your commander like everybody else does because that's what attacking is to Planeswalkers. Anyway, they are fun to play. They play better than they are. But it's not like an amazing play experience. It's not like perfectly great.
So even though this is a criteria that we're going to measure it on, a lot of people are going to Get the decks, tear them apart, rebuild them, take some cards out, and make their own play experience.
Right.
And so this might be totally unimportant for you, or this might be one of the most important categories for you.
Just depending on
how you play.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to play it once as a precon and then break it apart.
And never do that again. Or maybe
like
once we're at some party somewhere.
Yeah. So this is a very low priority for me.
I think, though, a lot of people, like the biggest complaint, not the biggest, probably the second biggest complaint that's been out there about this product is that like the Jund Lands Matter deck doesn't appear to have a bunch of cards that care about lands mattering. In fact, when we broke it down, I think I had like 9.
It did not have very much. And if you have Lands Matter sort of plastered across it, and they released it saying it's Lands Matter, and there's not very many synergies, then I think people can be let down a little bit because they were so hyped and so excited about this Lands Matter deck that's really a Jund amount deck, of really just like value deck.
Yeah, and we caught a little flack for this, for like not complaining about that more, I suppose. One thing I'll say in our defense, we opened these well before they announced any themes or anything for the decks. We didn't know. We just opened the boxes. We got it from Wizards, looked at them. Cool. Lord Windgrace, open it up, look at it. There's nothing on that box that says Lands Matter exactly. Maybe on the back, but I'll be honest, I don't read the back. I just want to get to the cards as fast as possible. So, but it's called Nature's Vengeance, whatever. Open it up, break it open, look through it. So I didn't experience the same letdown because I think this was a marketing issue. Mm-hmm. Wizards went out into the public and they posted all over like, these are our themes, blah, 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 blah. Lands matter. People were like, Jund Lands Matter. Sweet. This is going to be awesome. They looked at the deck. They were like, where's all the Lands Matter stuff? What if they had just said Jund? You know, Jund good stuff.
It is kind of a Jund good stuff deck. And when we were breaking it down, I was telling Josh, I was like, can I choose more than 10 cards, like, to upgrade this deck?
Yeah, can I move out more than 10?
Can I please put in more? He's like, your list is too long. It's like,
we can't talk
these cards are so good.
So I think that was a big complaint about it. All the decks, I think, besides Bant Enchantments, that one feels pretty focused, but they all feel pretty disjointed. But again, Commander products in general tend to feel very disjointed. Now,
yeah, if we look back, like, it used to be super disjointed, and then it got a little bit better, but still, they've never been this cohesive deck.
I think here's a problem. C18 was tribal, and it was pretty focused. Mm-hmm. Each of those decks felt wizards, felt vampires, felt...
But even in Wizards, Marcel was like this outlier.
I'm not saying there wasn't like other stuff, but they didn't feel like, oh, my main strategy that the marketing said it's this. It feels like that.
I think Dragons is a good example of it because it was literally all... Dragons came with dragons and played dragons.
But it said Wizards deck. It felt like a Wizards deck. It said vampires. It made vampires. Like, it said cats. It cared about cats. And C18 was the best-selling Commander product. I know this from conversations with people at Wizards. It did very, very, very well. And so C16, those decks, like the Yidris deck, doesn't feel like it's doing anything focused at all.
It's a weird wheel deck.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, we're supposed to be cascading, not wheeling everything. It was weird.
It's totally like Kineos and Tiro. It's like, what is that deck even doing? It's got some weird pillow forty stuff and whatever. Like, and then you go back even farther, and the decks have. If you go back to like 2013, the decks are literally like 1/3 of 3 different decks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You could point to the card that matched with the commander.
Yeah.
And the commanders are completely different.
Yeah. It's like we said, it's like Derevi and Rune, and like they're just not working together in any real way. And even more percentage of the cards are devoted to each commander in the older stuff. So they have gotten a little less disjointed. But the problem is C18 is the nearest in memory and the one that most. It brought in a whole slew of people because it was so popular and it sold so much. And so the mentality may not be that like, oh, these are always unfocused. They're always a little disjointed. We're supposed to do this X, Y, and Z to it. It might be like, well, last year's was pretty... I bought a Wizards deck and it had a lot of Wizards. And this year they said Jund Lands Matter, and now there's no Lands Matter. What the heck's going on?
Yeah.
It might be colored by recency, basically.
Yeah. So what's the verdict on the play experience? We've talked about a few different things. We talked about literally pulling it out of the box and playing it. Josh said pretty okay, although he's a little bit down on Planeswalkers in general. We talked about sort of the themes and how the themes can feel disjointed and the perceptions that we have about that. But ultimately, when it comes down to the verdict of the play experience...
I mean, it's hard to judge, right? I think we're going to be similar because we both are viewing it as very enfranchised Commander players. This, to me, honestly, is not super different from any set release in that the way I look at it is like the cards individually. I don't look at the fact that it's in a precon as worth very much to me, because ultimately I know whatever it is, I'm going to take the deck and I'm going to build, if I'm going to build Lord Windgrace, how many of the cards are going to be from the precon?
So you don't actually expect to...
I never have.
Okay.
But that's just my mentality, because to me, it's just like M19 coming out. What's the list of new cards? How am I going to use them? Am I going to build new decks? Am I going to slot them into previous decks? But it's not like which ones come in which precon that I can keep together. I'm not expecting necessarily to play these straight out of the box for very long, a few times, because that's fun. And then I'm going to strip it for parts and I'm going to create new stuff.
So this play experience could be super important for some people, but in our perspective, it's hard to give it a grade because we don't really care and we expect it to be mediocre.
I mean, here's maybe a better question. What do you think they should aim for? Like, let's say that a 1 on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 is a deck that just is not cohesive at all, is completely unfocused, and 10 is like fully tuned.
Okay, I got
optimized.
it.
Where do you think the precon should sit on that scale?
I actually have an answer that I firmly believe in. Is I think that you should be able to take this precon out and sit down at a commander table and you don't have to win, but you are playing the game with other people. So I think it should be on that level.
Right, but where does that sit as far as like totally unfocused to optimized, tuned? Like, I get the feeling there's certain people that would love to buy the deck. Jund Lands Matter, and it has Gitrog, Omnath, Titania, Crucible of Worlds, Scape Shift, everything already in it, fetch lands.
I don't think that should be the goal. I think that it should, but it shouldn't be completely unfocused. I think it should have
like a 3 or 4 on that scale.
Yeah. I think it should have paths for expanding and building and exploring, but it should not be focused.
So you think this is basically a success, because that feels like what this is.
Yeah, actually, I think I do. Now that we've talked about it, I think this might be a success.
Yeah, and again, we're looking at it for just the new cards. I think it's fine. I'm not super worried about how cohesive the deck is straight out of the box, and neither are you. So
yeah, but now that you've kind of prompted me in this area, is like I think that this should be a good jumping off point for new players. And so, and by the way, the new players, they don't know about Jund Land Matters or anything like that.
No.
So if you're a brand new player playing this deck, like, is it fun? Can you talk to someone and get a Gitrog monster or an Omnath and throw it in this deck and be super excited about it? I think that might be okay. I think this might be a good deck for that.
Now that you put sort of a pin in it, I will say that when playing the decks, they feel like they're doing the thing that they're supposed to do. Jund Land Matters actually does feel like lands matter, because your commander does care about lands, discarding them and whatnot. So you're very focused on lands. Do I have lands? Blah, blah, blah. Aminatou feels that like the top of your deck does matter.
I think that's good.
So maybe it is a success from that standpoint, as far as like, even though when you sort of, write all the cards down individually and put them into categories and go like, there's only 9 lands in this card. But when you play it, it's like, no, it tends to play like artifacts matter in the Saheeli deck. Like, it feels like it's an artifact deck, when you play with or against it. So,
all right, then I'm actually going to upgrade it. I actually think it's a success.
A success? Okay.
Okay.
All right, next category is new toys. For Commander to be healthy and exciting format, we need new toys, new tools, and powerful staples entering the format to make our decks enjoyable. You almost hit it. So this is a big part for you and I, and it's kind of like the Commander category, but this is for the in the 99 category almost.
I get super excited about this. Yeah.
So Commander 18, did we get any new powerful effects or potential format staples?
I think we did.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that this is actually something that Wizards has been doing a really good job about. And we pointed out when we were going through a lot of these deck techs and when we were breaking down the individual cards, which is, oh, look, they're trying to do blank.
Yeah.
That red enchantment hate card.
Yep. I forget what it's called. Yeah, Enchanter's Bane.
Yeah. Oh, good job. Is again, we didn't exactly like it very much, but that kind of doesn't matter.
It's cool design though.
Because they're pushing that design space, and I like that. I like it when they have cards that include all of the players, where they give special nods to commanders. There's that one card there where you single out 2 opponents and they double damage to each other.
Sower of Discord.
Sower of Discord. I'm just going to talk about him and Josh will give all the relevant information. But that is distinctly Commander.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so I like that there's these new toys that are nods to our multiplayer format.
Yeah, we've got Boreas Charger, Endless Atlas, Treasure Nabber is a big one a lot of people are talking about. Windgrace's Judgment we really liked. These feel like very powerful effects or potential format staples.
And they're moving into areas that we feel like we need movement in. Boreas Charger is that white lands problem that we have.
Endless Atlas is mono white or mono red or Boros ramping.
Yeah, or card draw, right?
Card draw, yeah.
Treasure Nabber is supposed to sort of put a cap on all of this rampant artifact.
It's also mono red ramping. It's kind of like, I think Jason Alt, or I may be attributing this wrong, but I think it was Jason Alt who said Treasure Nabber was kind of like Rhystic Study for red, right? It doesn't draw him cards, but it gives him ramp. Anytime you use your mana rock, I get to... I'm
going to borrow that.
Yeah, I'm going to borrow that. I'm going to use it for my ramp.
But I like it. And Windgrace's Judgment, it's a removal spell, which could be printed anywhere except for... It's just for us because it hits everyone around the table.
Yeah.
So it does feel like they're giving us new toys and that they're pushing boundaries into new areas that I'm excited about, because I think every card that we've listed here, I have a commander deck I'm going to try it out in.
So compared to past sets, is this something that they've done? And they have, for sure. So C17 had Teferi's Protection, Path of Ancestry, Herald's Horn, Hammer of Nazan. These are all very highly played, and some of these are format staples. A lot of them are just powerful effects in certain strategies. C16 had Ash Barrens, Sylvan Reclamation, Deep Glow Skate, Crystalline Crawler. Ash Barrens is played in like 20,000 decks. It's ridiculous. It's played in like a ton. That's another like high percentage of format staples and very powerful effects. C15 had Blade of Selves, Thought Vessel, Command Beacon. So this is something they do, but I feel like C18 has... I mean, we're going to the verdict here. How does C18 stack up, do you think?
I think that all of the sets have been extremely predictable. That they have this removal spell, they have this board wipe, they have this ramp, they have the land, and they're really trying to push in other directions. And it's not that surprising that there's a great mana rock in Commander Sphere and Thought Vessel and, Crystalline Crawler, like you mentioned. And now we have sort of different ones as we go along. Or now there's a new land being pushed into another direction, or a new
Forge of Heroes, right?
Removal.
Is a new one. Yeah.
So this is not surprising. It feels very predictable to me. And this feels on par with all of the sets before it. Especially if you go and you look up what are the original cards from each commander set, it feels like, oh, well, number one, these are great. I play them all the time. They have done a really good job at producing really strong and fun cards. And wow, they feel surprisingly similar year after year after year as they produce the kinds of cards that we want and need.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say they're similar in that we're getting sort of new effects. I think Endless Atlas and Boreas Charger are different than we've had before, but they're clearly like, what direction hasn't been covered? Let's push there. Oh, now this year we haven't, Teferi's Protection was like, oh, we need something against Cyclonic Rift and that kind of thing. Let's give them something there. This is like, oh, they need ramp and card draw in these certain colors. Let's give them something there. And then that's good. I'm hoping they continue to do that as the years go on, and eventually we will fill in all the weaknesses and gaps where we think, like, I'm not saying push the color pie out of the way. I'm just saying, like, make everything a little bit more viable. So I think that's good, and I agree with you. I think that C18 stacks up pretty well in this category and is about on par with past commander sets. This is also a product every year where they can... It's really the only product. There's a Battle Bond or a Conspiracy.
We were happy. I was really happy with Battle Bond.
Yeah.
That we got this Multiplayers Matters.
So maybe it's not the only product every year, but it's the product where they can really design stuff for multiplayer and specifically for Commander. So in Commander 2018, we've got stuff like Emissary of Grudges, the Sower of Discord that you talked about earlier. Yeah. We also have the Loyal Cycle, which... everything has Lieutenant, which is a mechanic that cares about if your commander's out. We got the Storm Cycle that cares about how many times you've cast your commander from the command zone. They can only put that in these sets and those type of things. And it feels like this year they've done that a number of times, taken advantage of it. Windgrace's Judgment, we keep mentioning, but that's a multiplayer card.
Yeah, and this feels new. It feels exciting. It's an interesting new set of cards. And I think that even though all of the ones that you mentioned aren't super duper powerful, I like that they're giving a nod to our format, and some people are going to embrace them and play them and really enjoy it.
And, it's been hit or miss in past Commander products, too. If you look at the multiplayer Commander-specific cards, we've had things like the Tempt Cycle. There's one really good of those that you see a lot.
I think there's two good ones.
Tempt with Discovery is the one you see all the time.
And Tempt with Vengeance.
And Tempt with Vengeance is the red one?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you see that a decent amount, but it's good in specific decks. Perforos, things like that.
Angry Omnath.
Yeah.
It makes elementals.
Yeah, okay. I'm just saying, like, it's not a red staple by any means, whereas Tempt with Discovery can be something of a green staple. Like, it's okay.
It doesn't have to
whatever.
be. Don't take the offer.
We're splitting hairs.
But here's the thing. I don't think that they have to be.
No, not at all.
Because this is the new toys category. So it's like, oh, that's an interesting way of going about it. It doesn't have to be this format defining powerhouse.
I'm actually saying that in defense of C18, saying that if you look back, we've got sort of rose-colored glasses, but if you looked at the Tempt with cycle, man, one of them's great, another one's pretty good, and the rest are pretty bad. And so that's kind of what we got with the Storm cycle, right?
Think about the Confluence cycle.
Yeah.
Where we have a few of them that are like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, and
nobody plays the black one, okay. It's actually the black one's okay.
The white one.
The green one's only okay. They're all fine and playable, but none of them are awesome except for
Mystic Confluence is like insane.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
So we have the Undaunted cycle in one of them. Again, Curtain's Call. Great. The rest of them I don't see very often. Yeah. We've had the Curse cycles. Those ones are just straight up pretty bad.
Don't like those at all.
We've had single cards like Disrupt Decorum was one of these. Grasp of Fate. Those are very good ones. But again, we have Windgrace's Judgment this time. I think Emissary Grudges actually is deceptively good.
I think it's very good.
I've had a chance to play with it a couple times, and it could do. And people forget.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
But the thing is that we're looking at the set and we're kind of cackling and we're excited that there's something that allows us to have politics, allows us to do stuff that we can't get in other sets. And I think that, again, you were talking about how just things that we just said, like C17 and how cohesive it was, might be influencing how we think about this now. Maybe the fact that we just got Battle Bond is making us a little bit callous to that, we don't always get these kinds of effects. But hang on, we just had Battle Bond, we just did. So maybe we're not as grateful for getting cool multiplayer effects.
Maybe. And, the Storm cycle, the Loyal cycle, I think was a pretty big miss. It's not super exciting.
It kind of always is, though. There's always a mediocre cycle in there that's filler. Yeah. And you can tell because they're not, what are they? They're uncommon?
I don't even know.
They're not.
I don't even know
rare,
why that
basically.
rarity even matters in Commander. It's for
but
Pauper
you can literally,
no
but you can literally look at it and be like, oh, this is the power level of this cycle of cards, and it is not the rare mythic power.
Power level. Got
power
it.
level.
Okay, so what verdict on the multiplayer Commander specific cards? Do you think it was hit or miss in the set? How does C18 stack up?
I love it. I think it did a really good job.
Yeah, I don't think it's better than most of these other ones. I don't think it's
better either. I think it's very on par.
Yeah,
and I think that the types of cards that they have are predictable and that they do push in certain areas, but ultimately we know that they're going to push, and I've expected them to do a good job in this category, and I think that they did this time.
All right, now let's go on to the most contentious category, the biggest complaints by far that people have, and I mean, let's be honest, it's warranted, is reprints and value. So that's what we're hearing the most of, is that
they raised the price $5.
Well, yeah, that was bad. I mean,
so they raised the price $5, and we're used to getting extreme value in these sets. We're used to getting great reprints, and every single time we tried to pull notable reprints, we struggled. We were literally like, we'll search through the deck again. We have to be missing something. Go look at prices. We have to be missing something.
And we weren't, although we missed Bear Ember, I suppose, but it's only a couple bucks. Now, listen, game design, which is all the other categories we've talked about, right, are basically in the game design category.
Yeah.
That's more of an art than a science. It's going to be more hit or miss. It's impossible to know exactly how the audience is going to respond. It's like movie making or something where, like, you do your best and you hope it's great, but at a certain point, you're not sure. It's art. If you paint a painting, you could think it's great and people could hate it, or you think it's awful and people could love it. The more you do it, the better your barometer becomes, but you're never like at 100%. Like, I know exactly. Trust me, Steven Spielberg doesn't know for sure how people are going to react to his movies, and he's, done a million of them. So I guess what I'm trying to say is reprints and value are not, they are like assured. I'm going to reprint a card. It's worth $20. People are going to get excited about that.
Yes.
So in the one category where
they have
it's a known quantity,
yeah,
they know all the information. To fail in this category to me is extremely perplexing and frustrating, and I understand everyone's frustration. I know
but one thing that should be noted is that this category might be what a lot of people go to at first, but I think a lot of players don't go to this category first. I wasn't, when I opened up these packs, I wasn't like, what value is in this? What reprints are going to be in this? And that might be different from me or you or someone else, but I was immediately going for those new cards, immediately looking at the new commanders, excited and hyped for that. I don't know about you. Were you going through saying like, well, how good's the value? What reprint can I get?
No, and admittedly, you and I and Jimmy and this show in general, we have big collections. Like we just do. Like if I want to build a deck, I can, I don't have Power 9 or anything, but I can build most decks. I have most cards. I can obtain the ones I don't by trading ones I've got or whatever. And so reprints are not as important to me.
When you play Commander for 15 years or something like that, then, I've been playing Commander for 22 years. I have a lot of cards. I have too many cards.
Yeah, way too many.
Actually, many cards.
My biggest problem by far is not do I have the card, it's where is the card? That's the big problem.
Future show topic. Yeah. Where is that card?
So,
but that's the thing, is that I'm immediately going for the new cards and not necessarily the value. But we're not you.
Value is hugely important to a lot of people out there, and it is important to me in some respect. There's definitely like.
So even though our gut reaction was to go to the new cards, when we realized there wasn't any value, it felt gross.
It felt bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt. Yeah. And we should say WotC doesn't acknowledge the secondary market. I think a lot of people misunderstand what this means. They're not allowed to talk about it from a legal standpoint. It's just a policy within WotC, their legal team.
It's
basically.
A good policy.
Yeah, it's important for them. That doesn't mean they don't pay attention to the prices. They just can't acknowledge them. I know from friends inside and outside WotC, former and current employees, that they sort of have workarounds for talking about prices. So when they're talking about a deck, they'll say things like, and this deck is worth 60 points. What do those points stand for? Could be anything. It covers them in the legal range, but they are able to talk about prices in a way. And they do, and so they care about prices. You know this because the proof is in the pudding, right? You could not build a Lord Windgrace Lands Matter deck if I was like, DJ, you're going to build the Lord Windgrace Lands Matter deck, but you knew nothing about Magic, and I said, design the deck, but I gave you a website that had no prices on it.
Oh man, I would make such an expensive deck.
Yeah, it would have Gitrog, Omnath, Titania, Crucible of Worlds, Scapeshift, all the fetch lands.
It would have all the fetch lands for sure. Yeah. And then immediately they would be like, no, this is unprintable. We can't do that.
The fact that those cards aren't in there actually tells you that they pay attention to price, because they're not putting in a ton of expensive cards that just are no-brainers.
And one thing is that they can't put in all of those cards.
Yeah.
They just can't. They could have done better than they did.
Well, that's the thing.
They could have done way better than they did, but they cannot push the price so crazy because of the consequences of the secondary market and what they would do to it.
What they've learned is if you put too much value in, then shops and individuals begin to hoard the product, buy it, and jack the price up. It's kind of like scalping tickets to a concert or something. And so they need to hit this wheelhouse where it's exciting to players, but it's not so over the top value that it actually becomes harder for the players to get a hold of because people are hoarding them.
But they've done a good job. So they've had a few problems, but in the past, like True Name Nemesis. But by the way, that's a new card.
That scared the crap out of them, and I think a lot of the problems we see are because of that one mistake.
Yeah, True Name Nemesis was a problem back in how many years ago was that?
2013.
So 2013, they printed, what they like to do is include legacy cards, because these commander cards are legacy playable. And so in order to make sure that they had sales, make sure that they had another audience, they put legacy cards that would be good in that format in our commander sets. And True Name Nemesis, still played in Legacy, still very good.
Good in Cube.
It's just a great card. Was in a commander deck, and then that commander deck became impossible to get. And
to the point where they had to do a second print run of the product. And in the cases of that print run, they actually printed 2 copies of that deck and 1 copy of all the other decks.
Yeah. And so people, it basically threw things out of whack. And this, I don't know if, it seems weird because they've done it really well in the past years. Like you could, for the most part, buy commander products and buy the one you wanted to at MSRP and still have there be good value in it.
Here's what we can say. I think we can say it pretty easily. Like you said, they raised the MSRP by $5 this year, right? So it went from $35 to $40. Now, what's the justification for doing that? It would be really
You're going to make a better set for me.
I'm
excited about that. You know what? I'm willing to give you $5 more because this has been amazing in the past. and I have faith in you that you're going to make it amazing this year.
Yeah, and this is the real head scratcher of the whole thing, which is that they can't be so ignorant internally not to realize, like, okay, we're going to raise the price. So all we have to do is justify that price, and people will be fine with it. They'll swallow it, right? But if we don't, we're going to get yelled at. And they're getting yelled at right now because they totally didn't. And it would have been so easy to just print one $20 reprint in each of the decks, right? It doesn't cost them. Here's the thing. They're printing ink onto cardboard. It does not cost any more to print a fetch land than it does to print a basic land for them, out of pocket for Wizards, right? So could they put one fetch land? Now, listen, I'm not saying that's what the reprint they should have done.
That shouldn't have been the card.
That shouldn't have been the card. But financially, that makes no difference to them. They could easily do it. Whatever the card is, each, like, they could have reprinted Ristic Study, Vidalcan
Oracle Moldiah,
yes,
or something like that.
We can name a bunch of around $20 cards that each deck could have printed, had one of them. Everyone would have been stoked, wouldn't have cared. They would have been like, man, they're charging us $5 more, but I'm actually getting $15 extra because of the thing. And it's just really, really, that's the part about this whole thing that I totally get what everybody's mad about. And I'm with you. I've never understood why they don't do this. And honestly, they don't do this every year. They've had a couple of big reprints, but I think they've always been under reprinted. Let's compare. Okay, let's look here. So at the time of this recording, these prices fluctuate, so it can be tough to get like a real laser beam on the exact
Josh and
price.
I like write up stuff separately, and we like have completely different prices.
Yeah, because it was 12 hours apart, and I'm like, oh wait, that card's $5. He's like, well, it's $6 when I looked. Okay. So MSRP of the Commander set $5 is about $40 now. There's maybe one reprint in the entire set, all 4 decks, that's over $5, and it's not over $5 by much. It's $6 maybe. Depending on
where you
what
look
prices
and when
have
you look
done
and
right
stuff
now.
like that. Yeah.
So C18 reprints, Enchantress's Presence, maybe $6. Bear Umbra, $5. Then we got, this is in order of biggest expensive reprints down the line. So 5 then, or 6 then 5, and then we've got 3 or 4 cards that are about $3.50. Unwinding Clock, Entreat the Angels, Avenger of Zendikar.
And then here's
you
the
know
problem.
what the next most?
Yes, this is the problem, that this is the next most card.
The next most expensive card in all the decks is Sol Ring. So
the guaranteed inclusion.
Yeah, the 5th or the 6th, 7th, and 8th and 9th most expensive card in the decks is Sol Ring. Yeah, that's
not a reprint that, like, it's nice that there's tons of Sol Rings out there, great, but that shouldn't be the money card that we're getting in our sets.
It's just disappointing. It's very disappointing. And then, so we can compare this to past sets. C17 had Mirari's Wake, which is currently $10. Door of Destinies is $5. And then Zendikar Resurgent, Lightning Greaves, Captivating Vampire, Kodama's Reach, $3.50. There's a few other cards around $3. C16 had Chromatic Lantern, which is currently $16. Propaganda is $7.50. Forbidden Orchard, about $7. Burgeoning, $6. Reliquary Tower, $5.50. Homeward Path, $5.50.
Now, one thing that we have to say is that this is very subjective, that these numbers right now are from right now. Well, and cards, and we've just been talking about the craziness of prices. Well, and so these, by the way, some of these were way more when they were first spoiled, and then after the fact they went down, and some of these went down and then came back up again. Burgeoning had a reprint in between now and again. So some of these prices are kind of all over the place, but just by naming these cards, you know that there was better value in those last set, regardless of whatever price they were on release, after they saturated the market, and even now.
Numbers like these are always going to be biased because of just passage of time. So Chromatic Lantern, when it was reprinted in C16, dropped for a while.
Oh, yeah.
To like, around $5-6, and it's climbed back up over time. And, Enchantress's Presence, let's say, has a chance to climb back up over time.
$12 down to half that to $6. And then
it's going to go back up to 9, maybe.
Well, but before that, it's going to probably drop to 4 or 3, and then it might go back up to
8, 9, or whatever. Yeah,
like that.
3 years down the road, which is what we're looking at for some of this. Some of these may be back up to $10 or something. A couple of them, depending. Not Avenger of Zendikar, because they reprint that every 5 minutes. But
so just listing prices as we look now might not be a good comparison, but we don't have to. Over the course of our deck sort of breakdowns.
Investigation.
Yes, deck investigation. We've actually said to you, just go on MTG Goldfish, look at their breakdown. You can see what all the cards are worth. We've said that over and over again. And so when we go to Seth
Saffron Olive.
better known as Saffron Olive. He was looking at this in real time as they were released, and he's like, no, you're right. There are less good reprints in this set versus other ones. You want to
Is
read
this a
his tweet?
direct
This is
tweet?
direct from his tweet. Yeah.
So from Saffron Olive, maybe Craig or Murph or Terry can find this and put it up on screen. If not, he said, to put the Commander reprint conversation in perspective, Commander 2016 averaged 8.4 reprints worth $3 or more per deck. Commander 2017 averaged 6.4, and Commander 2018 averages just 4. Sorry, he didn't say the word just. Averages 4. By the numbers, the reprint complaint seems justified.
And everything I've looked at, and he's looked at it a lot more detail. Yeah. Everything I've looked at, the reprints suck.
I'll even go so far as to say they've always sucked. But they're trending in the wrong direction. They're sucking more.
And remember, we've always tried to put this in perspective for the past sets, and they've done this, and that's not okay. Why are we going down when the MSRP went up?
Yeah, that I don't know. Yeah, that just, I know Wizards people, they roll your eyes when you talk about reprints like this, but it just seems very easy to just. It's not asking a lot. No one's asking for like $50 cards. No one's saying put Mana Drain in each of them.
You know, someone out there is gonna in the comments gonna be like, put Mana Drain in the Jund Matters deck.
Well, now there's gonna be 50 of those comments, but there's
no rational
reason.
people are just asking for a little bit better. How about just the status quo? How about just maintaining the status quo?
You went up $5. I don't even want the status quo. It should be better. And then we went down. We have less reprints. It's just bad. It's absolutely like just a failure.
So here's the problem that I have is that basically these boxes cost $40. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
these sets, and if the reprints are not absorbing some of that $40, then all of that money goes straight into the brand new cards, making them more expensive and harder for people to acquire.
Which sucks particularly for people that are in our seat, which is enfranchised Commander players who are most excited and most need the new cards.
Who want 5 copies of Windgrace Judgment or want to just go out. Yeah.
Well, they have to just be more expensive because they didn't make a Mirari's Wake or a Chromatic
That will
Lantern.
absorb $10 or absorb $8 of that $40 price tag.
So it really
Right now,
just hurts
nothing's-
everybody because it hurts the people who already have Mirari's Wake and Chromatic Lantern or whatever,
Yes.
and it hurts the people who don't. And so it's just downside on top of downside.
And all of this, the thing is that you look at the calculations in value, and yes, if you add everything up, it ends up being more than that $40. But so much of that is bulk. It's not something that you can actually leverage to get anything better.
Take out all the cards that are under $2 and then talk to me about that, because everyone just has those lying around, and yeah, those are technically worth $2. You can get most of those for free if you want, if you know anybody that plays Magic, or if you've played Magic, you have a lot of that stuff. Like, honestly, a lot of it's tallying up like 38 cents for certain lands, that you're never going to pay 38 cents for those lands. Like, you're not going to buy them because somebody will give them to you, trade them to you, or you have them.
Or if you don't want them, then they're not worth the money.
Yes,
and
exactly.
if no one will buy them, then it's not worth that money.
Yeah.
And you can't buy list these cards. You just can't.
You can't get rid of them unless you're selling like a huge bulk amount. Yeah. Okay. So verdict on reprints and value. There, you wanted us to be negative. There, you got it. Yeah. I think.
So what is our verdict? If we gave
failure,
it a letter grade,
F.
it's actually an F.
F
right?
minus.
Yeah.
I don't know that it could be worse. Look at it. There's a $6 card.
Also, the reprint, it's like, it's Enchantress's Presence. It's not like, here's the thing. If it was like, let's say the one card was Chromatic Lantern, then it might be like, oh, great. Like, we have
a lot of decks.
it goes in a lot of decks.
Vidalcan
Yeah.
It's a $20
But
card.
it's like it's Enchantress's Presence
Why are you laughing at me?
and Bear Umbra.
Yeah. Very specific.
So specific.
Bear Umbra is at least a little bit more. Enchantress's Presence is very specific. Bear Umbra
It's an enchantment. It's for attacking. It's so specific.
It's a little sort of feast and famine. It does some cool stuff. Like, I'm just saying, it's in a lot more decks than Enchantress. It's bad. Vidalcan Orrery. Why'd you laugh at me? That made me feel bad, man. It's a $20 card.
I know. I wonder how it became a $20 card, Josh.
I'm trying to get it back. That's not what I wanted to happen.
No, I just think it's funny that's the immediately card you get. I'm thinking Chromatic Lantern.
No, I agree with you.
But
I agree with you.
Listen,
get
it in there.
One deck has Chromatic. One deck has Vidalcan Orrery. One deck has Wormcoil Engine, and one deck has
Sensei's Divining Top.
Boom. We just solved it. Think of how happy it would immediately flip from like people mad to people stoked, and all you did is print 4 cards. 4 cards that have already been reprinted before. It's not like they've never been reprinted. It's not like they're on the reserve list or something. Okay. All right, we got to move on.
Yeah. You're right.
Okay, so conclusions.
But one thing is, we end on this. We end on this note, so we can't let this, because we've said success, and ultimate failure. We can't let this one failure drag us down throughout our entire evaluation.
I mean, everything's weighted, right? So like we said, some of the categories like play experience were less important to us. So it's not equal weight. New cards, that was the most important to you and I.
Yeah.
Values and reprints is going to have to be weighted in that category. But
I think a lot of
any
people,
school you go to, if you get a B, an A, a B, and an F, that's not good.
Yeah, you're right.
Like any Fs on your report card are bad.
Yeah.
You can't get a 4.0.
I'm not allowed to go out and play Magic because I have an F on my report
card.
card.
You're not going to be an honor roll student with an F on there. So
you're right.
Yeah. Okay. So let's conclusions. Commander 2018, success, failure. Where do you put it on that scale?
Okay. So for me, it's a success.
We can only speak for ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
For me, it's a success. I'm upset that the reprints are not so good, but for me, I put my emphasis on the new cards and the new commanders, and I like them. I honestly like them a lot.
I'm more meh on the set. I think there are some successes, but I definitely think there are some failures. I think it's a little light on awesome. I think the power level is a little bit low, and as much flack as I get for it out there, it's true. I do like powerful stuff, and I do like to play powerful Magic. I do tend to play stronger decks, not tier 1, but I do like to do powerful things. And what is the really powerful card in this set?
I agree with you. I think the power level is down a little bit, but my play style is a little bit different from Josh's. My power level is down a little bit from that, but I want things that do interesting stuff and do weird stuff.
And I think I'm a Johnny too. Like I do, but I don't think that they gave us a bunch of Johnny tools either. Like you gave me Lands Matter with an extra color. That's not that interesting to me. I get why people are excited, but I could already play that deck. In fact, I built a 5-color lands deck because I wanted to. That's not a new door that got opened. That was just adding a little bit of trimming to a room that I'd already been inside. And I feel like Ban Enchantments was that, and I feel like Esper Zombies is that.
But the one thing is that the Bant Enchantments, the Estrid and Tuvasa you're right. Those are exactly like that. But what's the last one? Kestia is a new way of playing enchantments that you didn't have before. That's completely new, about going wide within. It's an aura based deck that goes wide. It's kind of an interesting idea.
We didn't talk about the fact that Kestia with Bestow means you can skip commander attacks like most of the time.
I think that's cool too.
Yeah.
What about the crazy land in your command zone? The Wandering Isle, Arixmethus. There we go. I like Xantra's Sleeper Agent. I like Burdick.
Those two to me are the most interesting. I'll say I started to build Thanos for the show, and I got really bored because it was just Paradox Engine and all the normal stuff. And I don't think the set is a failure. I just don't think it's an A. I think it's somewhere, since we're going with this, American school grading system, elementary school grading system, I would give it like a B, B minus maybe. There is some cool stuff. I don't think it's a total failure, but I get why people are upset. I
will claim this from my perspective as a success, but I'm sad that they couldn't have done better.
Yeah.
Then I think that it soured a lot of people, and I want everyone to be excited about this set. And a lot of people aren't. And a lot of people are going to be priced out of upgrading their decks. A thing that was really great is being able to buy the precon, get rid of one of the cards, and basically get 10 or 20 more cards or whatever and make your deck awesome. And it feels like that's just an impossibility now.
Yeah. It's really the value reprint thing. If they had solved that, then I would be a totally different tune, I think.
Yeah.
Because that would cover some of the other stuff. There are some cool new cards that are interesting that I'm excited about, but it's just brought down by the value reprint thing. Like, just give me one sweet card in each deck, and all of a sudden I'd be hyped on it. So, yeah. Okay. Well,
now off
on
to
that
you.
On that note, to the listeners, what category is most important to you that we talked about? Are you a person that cares about the new cards, is really worried about the reprint and value, wants to know how fun the deck is to play right out of the box, just wants new tools to go into your already existing decks? Which one of those are you sort of weighted in favor of? And then from that perspective, is C18 a failure or a success to you? Yeah, I will be interested to see sort of how everybody runs down on that.
You should, I'm saying this right now, but you should put a Twitter poll on,
Maybe when the episode
comes
Yeah, okay.
out, you should put a Twitter poll down.
I'll try and remember that.
And
No promises. Something you should all remember to do is go to cardkingdom.com/command-zone. Use that affiliate link when you order your new cards. If you're a DJ here and you're going to build a bunch of the new decks or put a bunch of cards.
I'm literally going to go and buy just a bunch of cards.
If you need 5 Windgrace's Judgment, cardkingdom.com/command-zone is a place to go. And you're going to want to put sleeves onto those Windgrace's Judgments because they're probably going to be worth a little bit of something and worth even more in a year or so. And the best sleeves on the market are the Eclipse sleeves by Ultra Pro. And while you're picking up Ultra Pro stuff, you should check out these wall scrolls they have. Have I mentioned they're made out of cloth? It makes them so much cooler than if they're made out of paper. For one, they don't like bend and crease and get ripped on the edges. And also they just look more classy when they're hanging there. So definitely check out Ultra Pro products. They make some really good stuff. Okay.
Now it's time for the end step,
where we talk about something cool outside the world of magic. I got a new show that we've started watching.
Ooh.
It's on HBO. It's called Sharp Objects. It's with Amy Adams. Have you seen it?
No, I like Amy Adams, though.
I like Amy Adams a lot. She's a really great actress. I think she's a producer on the show as well. And I don't know. It's just a really interesting show. I don't know where it's going. It's only like 4 or 5 episodes in at this point, and so I can't predict.
Ooh.
But the performances are great. The writing's pretty good. And it's one of those shows where you watch it, and if you stop and try and analyze why you're enjoying it, you can't figure out why exactly, but you just know that you are. Like, you know that you're into it. Like, you're
That's
interested,
good.
and it's holding your attention. But if you start breaking it down, you're like, I don't really know why. There's not explosions or big action sequences or anything, but I'm just invested in it for whatever reason, and so there you go.
That sounds great.
Handmaid's Tale is kind of like that, too. Huh. All right, so check out Sharp Objects on HBO. And another thing to check out is our sister podcast, the Masters of Modern. Alex Kessler, Ben Bateman, they talk about the modern format, all things competitive magic. You can find them on Twitter at the MMCast or right next to us at collected.company.
Our editor is Craig Blanchett, and special thanks to Geoffrey Palmer at Living Cards MTG.
Although we're still in that route where we're not sure who's editing this.
We don't know who's editing this?
It could be Josh Murphy, could be Terry Robertson. That's our editing team. They're all working on all this C18.
Thank you,
bonus
you
content.
have a whole editing team. But
I know, it's kind of crazy.
Thank you, editing team.
Thank you, editing team. And thank you, Geoffrey Palmer, for this cool sunset. I have no idea what card this is from, but it's cool. Geoffrey, did we say his Twitter? At Living Cards MTG. We can say it twice.
That's fine.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Bye, everyone.
Peace.
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter at JFWong and at Josh Lee Kwai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.